My jealous sister is mad at me because her husband's in love with me. What am I supposed to do about it? Guys, I need your help. Growing up with a sister has always been a challenging task. It might seem to share a pretty bond, but not in our case. Laura and I were not only growing up with time, but her hatred towards me propagated. My older sister, Laura, always thought that I was her enemy who always wanted to harm her happiness. It extends back to our childhood when, being a younger sister, I was privileged. And being a firstborn, she inculcated hate towards me as the two of us were sharing the attention of our parents. I was a smaller child, that's why my parents were obvious in taking care of me. Time passed, but the perspective of my parents remained the same. I was always their little child that needed more care. Conventionally, Laura's behavior with me grew even more intense. I was beaten up by her, she threw my toys away, and even more than that, she made me wear her old worn clothes. One day, my parents were out, they weren't home. Our aunt was there with us in the house and she was looking after us. I was playing with my toys and was lost in my realm of imagination. Suddenly, I heard a cracking sound outside of my room. At first, I was anxious, but then again I started playing with my toys again. My aunt was busy surfing social media while sipping on tea, and we two were doing our regular chores. I emerged with my toys when suddenly my sister barged through the house. She was being malfeasant and threw all my new clothes in the bedroom. When I confronted her, she stared at me with hateful eyes. She barged into the kitchen and I was following her like an impulsive kid at what she was doing with me now. Tears, they were rolling down my cheeks as our parents were also away. She took the scissors from the kitchen and moved into my room, cutting all the clothes with my scissors. And there is one of my favorite Barbie doll dress, pink in color. She knew that it was my dream dress. She tore it all to pieces, right in front of me. And suddenly she started shouting out of the blue, "Stop! Stop! What are you doing? Why are you tearing your own clothes?" She was screaming like a psychotic girl and portraying that I've done this. When my aunt barged into the room, she placed the whole blame for the incident on me. My aunt started confronting me, and my sister was standing behind her with a smile, and her smile was pure evil. My heart was dealing with immense emotional conflict when she told the same story to our parents. I tried my level best to make them understand that it was her, but I was a child. Who would even believe the younger sister anyways? Well, my parents yelled at me, and they started feeling that there's something wrong with me rather than evaluating my sister on the other end. And that's what was extremely horrendous, and I was in extreme agony. Other than that, she made me live in the smallest room in the house by manipulating our parents that she's the oldest one and needs more space. Well, I was okay with this damp little room, but one thing was for sure, there was always something evil going on in her head. Whenever I look upon their pair of sisters, they were not like that. So when I grew up, I began to ask my mother why Laura's like this and why she's always doing horrific things with me. She just seems so mean to me, and sometimes she needs to be pure embodiment of evil for me, when she has no limits at all. My mother comforted me with her calm words. Then my mother said this to me. No, it's your misconception. She had no problem with you. Your sister loved you very much. You're little, so you don't think like that, and my mother was always given that same statement. It's like it was a scripted answer from my mother, as whenever Laura yelled at me or did something bad to me, there was the same reply. It feels like she knew everything, but she was ignoring some facts for maintaining the peace at home. I still remembered the worst thing she's done to me was when I turned 11. On that day, we were going to a relative's marriage. It was Uncle Sam's marriage, who's been the dearest member to us. Every one of us decided to look the best. So here we began with all the preparations. Laura seems to be excited to attend the wedding eve. She wore a beautiful dress and ironed her hair to keep them straight. When Laura was just getting herself ready, our mother asked her for the iron for the hair. "Ugh, okay, Mom, if you say so." Mom came over there and I was in the room struggling with the dress and its customized essentials. My mom told me that Laura will help me in getting ready for the eve. I was a little shocked because all that time she said no to everything, but this time she said yes. Laura asked me to come into her room, but I was happy and swooped into the room where she was straightening her hair. I was happy that she was going to do something for me. I stepped in and she talked to me really nicely. Seeing her like that gives me a potent charm. She kept me busy talking while she was ironing my hair, and I was stupid that I did not speculate the whole situation. But again, I was a child. Laura burned my hair while talking to me. At first, I didn't see that, but soon the burning smell arose. When I asked my sister, did she smell anything? Laura said no, as according to her, there's no smell. But as time passed, this smell grew very intense. I said to my sister that I wanted to see in the mirror. She scolded me and mentioned, no, firstly let me finish your hair, and once I'm done, you have permission to see my mirror. I just nodded my head and sat there in the seat with comfort. Meanwhile, my mom came in and saw that Laura burned my hair. Mom got furious at Laura and started screaming at her. My mom was literally in agitation while seeing my hair, as she knew how much I'm in love with my hair. While wearing that Barbie doll dress, my hair's the one thing that complemented the beauty. Laura answered while neglecting her responsibility. I had no idea about it because we were talking. It's not my fault. My silky black hair was turned into rough gray charcoal that looked like a bird's nest. My eyes popped with a heavy tear to see my hair in the mirror. I was shocked, and absolutely I accused her that she had intentionally burnt my hair. Why would I burn your hair when you are the one that makes me feel distracted, right? I was screaming at her that at least she had to admit her fault, but she was so reluctant, and it seemed that she did this all on purpose. I literally wanted to kill her right then and there with my bare hands, but there was our mother standing there. She asked me to come with her and rebuked her. That once the wedding's over, she has to answer. There was nothing I could do with my hair, so I covered it evenly with a scarf. And honestly, I look like a clown. At the ceremonial venue, everyone complimented Laura, and I was one being made fun of. My cousins and Laura built a team, and the whole group just mocked me for my looks. I felt terrible, and somehow I just wanted this all to end. The elders were patronizing me, and the younger ones making fun of me, and I was at the hit list wedding. She ruined my whole day, and the most precious wedding that I wanted to attend with all my heart. After that day, I was never going to talk to Laura again. Luckily, she was having a huge circle, and within a few days, she might be moving out of town. I grasped that I didn't have to deal with her anymore. It's the only time of my life when I'm feeling myself, where I don't have a face to hatred, where I was not in the darkness and facing the embodiment of evil. She was my sister, but she destroyed my self-esteem and self-efficiency. In school and childhood, I was facing immense confidence issues, and in adolescence, I couldn't stand myself, and thanks to my sister, she was gaslighting me, and I could not do it, but at that phase of my life, I was at peace. Time passed and Laura completed her education, and then started a job. That's why she spent most of the time at her job. And eventually, I was at peace. One day, Laura came home early from the office. She said that today everyone had lunch together, and I and our parents were sitting at the dinner table. My mom inquired to Laura why you called us. Everyone was so anxious about her sudden act that she had never done this before. Laura said, I wanted to tell you that I'm dating a guy, and he seems pretty decent to me. The two of us want to excel in our relationship by marrying each other. My parents first did not ask anything about it, but then my father said to Laura to call the guy and his family. So, we met them in person and will follow the protocols necessary for marriage. Everyone was busy with the marriage preparations, but I didn't feel anything special. She used to mock me in the marriage preparations as well. One day at her engagement ceremony, she asked one of the servants to spill the ice cream dessert on my dress so that I would be highlighted like an idiot, in front of everyone. When my father scolded the servant, he blabbed out the secret that my sister gave him the money for doing it. My parents were embarrassed, but they still didn't say a word so that there would be no drama at the ceremony. When we came home, I broke the glass of water in front of her because of the anger that was residing in my heart. She came in front of her, and while screaming, she slapped my face. "How could you show this type of behavior in front of me? You'll regret this." So, my mother barged into our fight and separated us to avoid any other chaos. But the chaos has been done. Within 1 month, Laura got married, but I and Laura's problems were still the same, and usually we didn't like talking to each other. Laura flew to another town with Joe, and I was way too busy with my studies. I completed my graduation and was evenly excited about my first job. At that very moment, we received an invitation from Aunt Louise. Who can say no to Aunt Louise? As and otherwise, we don't go there, she'll come to us. We cleared the schedules and sneaked down the town to visit her. Laura joined us halfway. She still seemed arrogant, but unknowingly, her husband Joe is quite opposite of her. Seemingly, a happy family had the dinner. I always wanted to settle things up between us, but it seems like Laura is no more interested. So I decided to approach her, but before I did, Joe came up to me. He greeted me, and we shared a little chit-chat. I won't get that much time, as Joe and I surprisingly was from the same college. The only difference is he's an alumni, and I'm getting a degree. The day ended, and again there was no end to our rivalry. But after 2 days, something unexpected happened that completely shattered us. I received a call from Joe, and he asked me to come over to the cafe as Laura wanted to talk. He ended the call, and I was left with doubts about what Laura wanted, or whether she was going to give us a chance, or maybe I'm just exaggerating. I stepped into the cafe right on time and saw that Joe was there alone. He asked me to accompany him, so I did. I comforted myself at the table and asked about Laura. He told me that he is the one who wants to talk to her. I got furious and aggressive at that very moment. I stood up immediately and left the cafe, but Joe followed me and held me there saying, "Wait, when I saw you for the first time, I fell in love with you. You were so beautiful. I was not happy with your sister, and I'm going to divorce her. Your sister Laura's getting divorced, and I want to marry you. I love you, I think. But if you say no, I won't leave your sister." His words seemed like a mock to my face, so I shook my head and screamed at him, saying that I'll tell every single word to my sister. Then he said, "Oh, really? Okay, do what you want to do then. But in the end, you'll be suffering the most." That's what he said, and then he left. I told them all these things to my mother that Joe asked her. My mother talked about all these things with Laura, about her husband and what he wanted from me. As soon as she was told about her husband, instead of pushing him away, she turned on me, saying, "You little witch. You're trying to steal my husband. He's mine. Stay out of us. Keep your dirty business away. Our parents should give us foster care, you home wrecker." She yelled at me and was immediately snubbed by her mother. She said my mother and my whole family that they should sell me as a slave, as I'm not earning a big amount of money. Then she mocked me by saying this heinous stuff to my parents. Everyone was shocked at what she said to the family, and no one can imagine that she said to my family for selling me as a slave. "It's enough, Laura. Leave right now," my mother said to her. I felt so terrible, and seeing her like that just makes me feel awful, how the two of us are sisters. On the other side, Joe showed a huge interest in me. He began stalking me, and eventually I was terrified. I really cared about Laura, and she needed to see his husband's true face. I was fed up with him, so I decided to play on him. I saved all the messages, pictures, all the gifts that Joe's gifted me. I asked him to meet me at the cafe. We did, and I recorded every single conversation we had. I was talking with him so that I could take all the screenshots of his messages and expose him entirely. Well, things grew intense and Joe's love towards me was making sense until one day, he proposed to me and asked for marriage. I said yes, seeing it as a perfect opportunity to expose him. As soon as Laura found out, she rushed to me and threatened me. She has to leave him, and now this perfect opportunity to teach the lesson. I plan to do a fake marriage with Joe to teach a lesson to my sister and Joe as well. A week before Laura and Joe divorced, and here comes the day we're supposed to get married. Me and Joe. Laura asked our parents to stop me from marrying Joe, but that's not going to happen. On the wedding day, when I was sitting as the bride, I asked a few of my friends to play all the videos and the recordings against Joe and my sister as well, so that everyone would know about the devil behind her innocent face. But oh, I just did not tell the whole world about Joe, but also played the recordings against sister. And here I can see the faces of my sister and Joe. They both have to pay for what they've done to me. I decided to make you feel terrible and awful just like you did to me. And how dare you say to my parents to sell me as a slave? My sweet little sister. Then I left from there and went to England that night to further my studies and left my past and memories behind me. I wish I could have been a fly on the wall at that wedding day when OP went for the revenge. Oh, that glorious karma. When those recordings were played out to the entire wedding ceremony. Let me know if you think this was good enough for revenge or if OP should have took it a step further. Drop your comments down below, guys. The second story on the day is a very interesting one. The title is, Am I the A-hole for pretending not to know my fiancé after she had a meltdown during boarding of the plane and was eventually thrown off? And guess what? I didn't go with her. So, my fiancé and I were on our way back from a vacation recently. It was a great time and everything went off without an issue. That is until we started boarding the plane. Now, I know better. I only bring a small backpack with essentials in case I don't get my checked bag. I can survive out of this backpack, and it'll always pass baggage check for size and weight. I've done a lot of traveling, so why fight the system? My fiancé did not want to listen to my advice and chose to bring basically a regular full-size bag that barely fits the standard carry-on. But generally speaking, the airline worker doesn't want to deal with trouble and allows it through. But this time, the airline worker was not having it. It was a packed flight, we were boarding last in economy, and it was just a crap show. I got through just fine with my little backpack, but I could hear the argument from the boarding tunnel thingy, and it was getting heated. I was about to go back and try to smooth it out, but my fiancé rushed past and just boarded anyways. I assumed, not having it heard super clearly, that the attendant had given in and let her on. That was not the case. So we found our seats and settled in. I was pretty tired, and I could tell she was upset, so I just kind of tucked into the window and put my hat down, and tried to take a nap. But soon after the airline worker and cop shows up, they're not ducking around and want her off the plane. She tries to plead and cry, but they're not having it. And maybe in a moment of panic or just plain self-preservation, the cop asks if we're together. I say no, shaking my head empathetically. I got killer dagger eyes from her as she shot up and grabbed her bag and followed the cop out. She was also swearing and screaming the whole time. Now obviously, this is well after the event I'm posting this, but when she did eventually come home, by the way, she caught the next flight out with the bag checked, I was there to pick her up. She obviously thought I was an a-hole, and to be honest, almost everyone I know thinks I'm an a-hole, except my boss and coworker, who, for context, were very much relying on me to be back on time, which I gave my word I would. For a really important project was time sensitive, and they were all very happy I didn't get thrown off too. So, am I the a-hole for this self-preservation? Let me know. Okay guys, usually in the comment sections of these stories, most people are agreeing with each other to some degree, but these two comments I found, oh, they are not agreeing with each other. The first one says, not the a-hole, get out while you still can. This is how she'll be forever. She'll never learn from this experience, just so you know. Comment 2 that replies to that didn't think that at all. Disagree. Nothing like the humiliation of a cop escorting you off a plane to learn that rules are really a thing. Loss of time, money, public humiliation are very powerful teachers, and now OP can reference this whenever she forgets her social dilemmas. Acting up in a restaurant? Geez, I hope they don't escort you out of here like they did off that plane. So guys, can the husband take this as a positive motivation so that they can continue their relationship, or do you think that the husband's just an a-hole? Let me know in the comment section down below and tell me what you would have done. Are you getting off that plane, or are you staying on that plane? Drop your thoughts, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope each and every one of you have an amazing day, and I'll catch you in the next one.